I don't think anybody, all parties involved, thought it was going to be like that. Like, I mean, I was in TMZ. They wrote about it in the Daily Mail over in the UK. There was a little blurb in People magazine. Not like the magazine, but the online version. Yeah. I remember Dave going, well, you made it to People magazine. I mean,
I don't want to, not to make this a dick measuring contest, but I got Washington Post when I got fired.
Hey,
which, and I got Daily Mail too. It wasn't a blurb. It was a full thing.
Fucking... Welcome back to Oops the Podcast.
All right, lots to unpack here.
I got something for you.
Please. Julio, I don't know where you came up with that idea.
Dude, this guy was a huge turkey.
What is this, Japan? Which is one of the reasons why I hadn't told you about it.
No, and I also just assumed you were saving it for the pod if you were going to tell me.
Yeah.
Which, of course you were.
Oh, yeah. We're Oops the Podcast. That's Giulio Gallerati to my left.
What's happening?
To his left, Ryan Lynch.
Are we grooming Francis 2.0? Is that what's going on here?
That's right. I mean, I've been grooming him for a long time.
He's called me his fuck thing before.
Oh.
Yeah.
So wait, is Frankie Borelli feeling
Frankie
jealousy,
Borelli, I can't pin down, literally or
Good.
figuratively.
I'm with you on that.
He's put on too much weight. And we've got Chris over here on the 1s, 2s, and 3s. And we are joined by a pioneer of podcasting.
Wow.
The Lewis of Lewis and Clark of podcasting here at Barstool. One of the OGs, an absolute face you've known for many years. And I would argue one of the people that made me think, man, oh man, could I ever write at Barstool? If so, that would be a dream job. To emulate and follow in the footsteps of this man right here to my right, Kevin KFC Clancy, ladies and gentlemen.
That was maybe the most respectful intro I've ever gotten. One of the very few people who respect me here, man. Thank you, bro.
I don't think you...
He's good at intros. Yes.
I don't think you get enough credit. I really mean that.
I fucking agree.
I don't think
Try not to harp on it, but it eats at me constantly.
I don't think you get enough credit. I don't think you get enough credit, and I don't really understand it.
Well, I mean
that.
No, I do understand it in a sense because, well, maybe I don't. I don't know. It's some things I think are pretty blatant. Like, we either did it first or tried to do it first, or we're trying new mediums and new styles, and then other people came along and did it. And I think what happened is other people came along and did it bigger and better and were more famous and more successful, and so. It's kind of one of those things where it's like you just you get forgotten because there are, there's when you work at Barstool, you're going up against, when people were like, oh, your podcast is not as big as Call Her Daddy. It's like, well, no fucking kidding, man. Yeah. If that's the bar, So when it's Pardon My Take and Spittin' Chicklets and Call Her Daddy and Dave Portnoy as just like an entity, yeah, okay. I'm not. You're right. I'm not like on that level. But I think that there's some in-between tiers there where it's like, I think sometimes, but I also like being in the deep end, you know what I mean? It's almost like, good, compare me to the absolute best, I'd rather be in the same conversation with them, even if it's, saying you're not on that level or whatever. I mean, somebody the other day, I listed off the guests that we've had recently, and someone was like, what is this, just like a knockoff Joe Rogan? Like, all you do is have the guests that he's had. And I'm like, okay, brother, let's keep with that narrative. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you want to keep mentioning me alongside that show? All good.
Yeah.
So
we had Dave Portnoy before Joe Rogan did.
So that's what was funny. So this one guy was hammering me about that Joe, all these people were on Joe before. And I said, well, they did my show first. And he wrote back, like, obviously being very sarcastic, like, of course he did my show first. It's, nothing compared to Joe. And he wrote back like, oh, well, if that's the case, I owe you an apology. I'm like, you got. Then I remember to stop talking to strangers on the internet because they're fucking stupid. But anyway, this is a long-winded way to say, like, sometimes I wish that there was a little more recognition, and not only for me, but I mean, Feidelberg is the least recognition goes his way. Yeah. So I think between the two of us, sometimes we could get a little more credit, especially like the way we've done. I think we've made some really incredible strides with comics in the last few years.
Definitely.
And it's like, if you look at what the amount of love that other podcasts get for doing as well in their field, the best hockey podcast, the best golf guests, what PMT does with athletes, what blah, blah, blah. Like, we've done that with comedy, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to have popped like in the general public. The comics recognize it. I mean, we always get a lot of great reviews from the comics. Some people internally here, like yourself, recognize it, but I don't know if it ever really made the jump outside the Barstool bubble.
Julio, tell us, as a deeply entrenched and respected member of the New York comedy scene yourself, what your impression, independent of your work here at Barstool, is of KFC and KFC. Well, let's just say KFC Radio as its place in the comedy world.
This is very good, which is happening right here.
Yes.
I had it ready. You could almost tell.
Oh, I could feel it.
You teed it
I
up.
could feel it.
Lob it up.
Oh.
That was very good. Thank you, Francis. Colorado slams it home. Well, yeah, like, I wonder about that because, like, yeah, it's easy to, and I'm in no way, like, I don't understand the complexities necessarily of everything that you just said.
Right. That's
Interesting,
good.
for
Like,
sure.
I almost like to know from the point of view of
Right.
a normal person who's not
Right.
a fucking weirdo Barstool fan who knows all the ins and outs. It's like, just tell me as a normal guy, what do you think?
No, totally. I know that before I even, was over here and before I had met you, I'd been hearing about your show forever from comedians, and it was always interesting to see how excited every comedian who had ever met who was about to do your show or who had just done your show
Yeah.
was,
Right.
and how much they love doing it and love you.
Yeah.
And they're the best. They're so good to comics. You know what I mean? It's this
Yeah.
like thing where like, it's almost like a notch on the belt doing your guys' show. It's like
Yeah.
a big deal, dude.
And my goal was to always try to be like an East Coast Joe Rogan, with the notion in mind that, no one's ever going to attain that level. But the idea being, if you're on the East Coast instead of the West Coast, like, you come through our show and we put you on, and it's kind of like what I hope once you've come on our show, we launch you to another level, and then hopefully you go to Joe's show and you go to the top level, but that we'd be like an in-between. And it seems to have kind of come to fruition. And really in the past like year or so, and a lot because of Bert Kreischer and the way he's the one guy who really openly talks about it. Like a lot of people will say it to me, and sometimes I'm like, can you say it on your podcast too? Like, thank you so much, but also tell the world. Bert very openly says it. And so like, they in the comic world are very open about it and very gracious and always say great things. And sometimes I'm like, I hope the fans are listening and
Yeah.
take note of it, or at least, give it a shot. Or it's like, hey, I love this comic or this podcast, and they say, you got to do this one, or this is the best one that we do, so why don't we check it out too? And the show has been growing. This is not to say that like KFC Radio is not doing well or something. It's doing great, but sometimes I think that where we're at and sometimes the feedback I get are not jiving,
Mhm.
where it's like,
You mean from the higher ups here?
I think that the higher ups here don't get, like, Dave openly is like, I don't like stand-up comedy except for Chris Rock.
Mhm.
So naturally I remember him getting an offer to do a pizza review with Sebastian Maniscalco. And he said, why would I do that? Like, who is this
I
guy?
remember that.
It was the very same weekend he was in town. He sold out 4 nights at the Garden. He moved like 100,000 tickets that weekend or something crazy with all the spots he was doing. And Dave was like, I don't know him. I don't really get him. No. And that's fine, because comedy is a weird world where some people can be so famous in that realm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Sebastian is kind of breaking out of that. Everybody knows him. But so when Dave is not really co-signing something or into something, you're not going to get that push from the company. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so we've always kind of been on an island doing our thing. And for better or worse, like, that was also my career at Barstool in general, because we did like there's always so much competition at Barstool, and especially back during the day, in the olden days, it was like so much competition that we weren't like promoting each other. We were never really hyping each other up. So it was always like, I'm just going to do this, on my own and get there on my own. And so, it's a long-winded way to say, you can't necessarily complain about if I'm not getting recognition from higher ups and stuff, if I'm not talking with them and working with them and having a discourse with them too, so maybe along the way I should have been more vocal and been like, hey, what we're doing over here is pretty fucking awesome. Take a look at this. But I do remember one time talking to Dave. I think we were either negotiating a salary or just talking about whatever. And he said to me, like, you guys are easy money. Like, you do your thing. You don't complain. I never have any drama with you, aside from, like, our, like, on-camera drama, He was like, and the money comes in, and, like, you're good. It's like, set it and forget it. Which, on the one hand, I was like, I guess that's a good thing. But it's not the most glowing review where you would prefer it would be like, how about, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the oil thing. Maybe I shouldn't have been so set it and forget it. Maybe I should have been a little louder and I'd be getting, a different review, if you will.
Yeah. When was the first ever podcast episode that you recorded and released? In what year?
June 2012.
They had a pod in 2012.
Yeah, that was so we just had our 10-year anniversary over the summer.
Wow.
That was at a time when the top 100 on the iTunes chart was all the podcasts.
In the world,
the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's
That's
really
wild.
like, as far as I know, the people who predate me that like we all know and matter, because there was a smattering of shows that like, but it was like Bobby Kelly had one, Joe Rogan, Bill Simmons, I think probably Mark Maron.
Had Clinton and Christina even started that early?
I wonder.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably a couple like floating around there. So yeah, I mean that was all thanks to my brother, who he had been. If I was smart, I probably would have been in 11 or maybe even 10. He was pushing it early, but I was like, we don't have a studio, we don't have a call. I come from the sports radio world. I grew up listening to like live sports radio, terrestrial. So I was thinking about taking callers and having interviews and all that. And I was like, we don't have the means, we don't have the production, because back then it was just like living in my apartment trying to figure shit out. He came to me, he knows how to like push me, where it's like, here's an idea, and he gets to bother me, and then he knows to fall back, but when to push me. And he came to me and he said, Google Voice is now a thing where you can call this phone number and people can leave a message and we can play that like it's a call. And then I was like, all right, let's go.
Oh, wow.
That was the vehicle that let me do it.
Am I wrong to think that you guys were the first podcast, or one of the very first, to ever include fan voicemails on a podcast that you would respond to?
I would probably guess we were the first, to be honest. Yeah.
First.
There's
That's
probably
pretty cool.
first that like eventually then made it. There might have been some guys doing that and who fizzled out or whatever. I've never heard of anybody else doing the voicemail idea.
I remember when it became a thing, because I was following Barstool back then, and I remember not understanding what a podcast was.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason,
a lot of that.
just being like, I thought somehow it was just you, the mail time.
Yep.
I thought that was just you having phone call conversations with random people the whole time.
No, yeah.
And
that
I was like, I don't know that I'm interested
well, so
in that.
you know what happened was KFC Radio became the voicemail show, really, because that was in the very beginning. That was like my co-host, because I was like, I'm not good enough yet to do like, I can't just sit and talk for an hour. Like Bill Burr was another one, Bill Burr style. Like I couldn't just ramble for an hour the way he did. I remember trying. My brother was like, all right, let's try a podcast, and I was like, here we go. And I did all my material for the day, and it was 12 minutes. And I was like, well, we're just a tad short. But the voicemails, ironically or coincidentally or whatever you want to say, everybody that called that line were all fucking dumb hypotheticals, Like the way that KFC Radio went with like, would you rather fight a tiger or a bear? Or would you rather fuck your mom or your dad? All that shit was just because the first like 20 calls were all that. There was nobody being like, hey man, going through this breakup with my girlfriend and blah, blah, blah. It was all just like, who's faster, Warren Sapp or a cheetah with 3 legs or whatever, So it went that direction. And then I added Feidelberg on. And then like a couple years later, we added Dan on. And that show was that form. But I still really wanted to just do, at that point, what I considered a podcast, which was just 2 guys sitting down for an hour, And that's when I did Mail Time with my brother, where that was like, me and him are basically like copies of each other. So it was almost like having a conversation with yourself. It was kind of weird, to be honest. But we always had a theme for that episode. Like today's theme is like, the hot girl at work, workplace romances, and we
Mhm.
talk about that. Or like a fun one we did was like misheard lyrics. We played clips of songs where people got the lyrics wrong,
Oh,
shit
yeah,
like that,
that's
where it
fun.
was a little more of like, here's an hour of like, you know what you're gonna get, and then the other show was the boys bantering and the phone calls, and then eventually it was like, this is stupid to be so fragmented. Let's put it all of our effort into one show.
That's sick.
And that was when me and John went off on our own. Like all that happened at the same time. Dan went to Pardon My Take. I consolidated all my shows. We went to twice a week. You know, the whole nine. That was when it was all like, let's formalize this and go for it.
Solid.
Is there any part of you that wonders if you hadn't cast so many separate lines in the water
Every day, man. Every day.
and had just focused on one thing,
Yeah.
what that might have been?
Yeah, but totally, because I think if you look around at all those shows I mentioned that really popped, it was like you could understand exactly what it was. This is the hockey podcast, you know? But then those guys would spiral out and talk about whatever they want, but you have a very pitchable, sellable, and describable show. And we heard that from sales all the time. First of all, the name sucks. The name is terrible. It's the stupidest name in the history of the world. I literally just made it up on the spot one day, putting zero thought into it. All I said to myself was, hey, maybe it might be smart to put some of my own name on something here. And at the time, like I said, I was thinking about terrestrial radio. So in my world, it was always like WFAN, WEEI, WIP. So I was just like KFC, just like letters and radio, you know? And it eventually, I mean, every time people are like, is it about chicken? And then there was a time where KFC Radio was my podcast, but my radio show had a different name. And they were like,
Yeah.
is this live? Is it not? And so the name, and then they were also like, give me your elevator pitch. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I need 10 minutes to explain it. Sometimes we do this and sometimes we do that. And sometimes. The one thing I think that could have worked, would have worked, I think the way I was doing it, because it was like, we talked about sports, we talked about chicks, we talked about pop culture, we talked about it all, which is what Barstool, the blog, was. If that was called like the Barstool Sports Podcast, I think it would have eventually exploded.
Yeah.
I just don't think that was ever really an option without Dave being on the show. I don't think he ever would have been like, yeah, you can call it that and just do that on your own. He very openly has said he thought it was like a side project I did for fun. So he was never going to be like, okay, this can represent the company in that space. But if someone said, what's the podcast? And you just said, you know, the blog, all the things they post, it's them talking about it.
Mhm.
Boom. We would be good, you know? But I think spreading myself, you know, master of none sort of style was probably a misstep. But also, I don't know what my specialty would have been.
Mhm.
So in that sense, it's like if I was truly really good at that point, I wasn't as into comedy. If I knew as much back then, I probably would have done that. But like I could talk about New York sports and the Mets and stuff, but that doesn't really interest me. I'd rather be like, this is all general conversation that's funny, and if along the way that makes it harder for sales to pitch and for you to make a deck and to clients to understand, like, so be it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, you look at everybody else who's succeeded in a major way, it's all that you know exactly what their show is. You know what I mean?
Well, dude, like I can't help but think that like you can only like lie with your methods, like as far as doing things the way you were gonna do it. So like you can be like, I should have done it this way, but like being true to yourself, there's value there. You know what I mean? You have to make a choice somehow. And like, you know, to me, I see you as a guy who everything has worked out for.
I know.
You know what I mean?
know. Sometimes, well, this place has a tendency to be very negative in the past. And so you do, like, internally, there's not, you know, you're not getting an attaboy, as we all know. Externally, fans are the ones that, like, love you the most are also the ones that were critiquing every word of every blog and everything you put out. And so there was, like, a lot of negativity. And, you know, even when you have the thickest of skin, that's going to, you know,
Totally.
it was like, I would never like lie at home, like crying myself to sleep all that often, every now and then. But I have to imagine it overall shaped my opinion of like, I'm not killing it. I'm not the best, you know, where some people are like, you know, thank you for saying that. Cause it probably was, you know, more that more success than not. But it was it's hard to believe that when you're not hearing it very often. You know what I mean?
Totally.
You've been here too long.
Totally. I mean, I'm institutionalized for sure. I'm
You
indoctrinated. Whatever you want to say. I'm
You
brainwashed. I'm fucked.
You're not comparing. You're not comparing where you're at to all the hundreds and hundreds of people trying to start a podcast or
Absolutely.
get people like Bert Kreischer on their radar.
I try to remember that.
You're
man.
not
I really do.
You're only comparing yourself to the other
top,
people that
yeah.
work here.
But on one level, I hope that's like an admirable trait. Like I want to always compare myself to bigger and better and try to get there. But I very much like try to tell myself to like stop and smell the flowers. You know.
Yeah.
I usually I compare it to a swimming pool. Like to me, I you know, there was a point in my life where like a house with a pool is like the best thing, right? You know, I want to swim in the pool. Like I want a pool. I love the pool. And then the people who have a house with a pool, you swim in it like the first couple of years, and then eventually it just fucking sits there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like there was a time where all you wanted was that in-ground pool. And the first year you had it, it was the best thing ever. And now it's just sitting there, and you know you forget that like you gotta enjoy some of it. But again, when not many people are saying it, and I'm not one to like you know, I'll hype all you guys up. I'll hype everybody up. That's hopefully what I'm looking forward to in this next level is like talking on social media about other people's shows and other clips that I find funny. I love doing it. I'll do it all day long. Putting out my own promo and being like, this is funny, you should go watch it. I would rather die than, you know. So but it's kind of one of those things. It's like if I'm not talking about it, then they're not going to talk about it. And if they don't talk about it, nobody talks about it, so on and so forth. But really, when there's not that much positive reinforcement going on, you know, you start to either consciously or subconsciously believe that a little bit, you know?
Mhm.
That's why when I hear these things or when Bert was so on the record about it or, you know, it's like important to hear those things, you know? There's times me and John will call each other and be like, yo, just so you know, like, think about what we did like this week. Like where we had like a really good week. Where it's like we had these 4 like best, we had like a A-list celebrity, an A-list comic. We went viral for this clip and we, you know, made the company this much money or some shit. Like that's a good year for some people. We did it in a week. And I'm like, fuck yeah, you're right. You're right. And then there's times where I got to call him and remind him of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that shit's important. I think like there's plenty of negativity to go around in the world of the digital social media era and shit. Having that positivity, I think, goes a long way.
My wife sent me a quote this morning after we fought about how much she was spending on Amazon. And I'd like to read it. Because she claims they're all purchases for mutual benefit and for the household. But I don't
Disagree
see
with
how
that?
that's possible. Here it is. You may believe that living life to the fullest is seeing every country in the world and quitting your job on a whim and falling recklessly in love. But it's really just knowing how to be where your feet are. It's learning how to take care of yourself, how to make a home within your own skin. It's learning how to build a simple life you are proud of. A life most fully lived is not always composed of the things that rock you awake, but those that slowly assure you it's okay to slow down. That's my favorite part.
Wow.
That you don't always have to prove yourself, that you don't need to fight forever or constantly want more, that it's okay for things to be just as they are.
Totally.
Little by little, you will begin to see that life can only grow outward in proportion to how stable it is inward. That if the joy is not in the little things first, the big things won't fully find us.
Who said that?
Brianna West.
That's somebody I should know.
I have no idea.
Don't
who
know
that is.
either.
That's some poignant shit right there.
It's a nice.
For real, that was very well
Yeah.
summarized
It's
because
nice.
I thought that was good for all of us.
I don't know about necessarily how it all ties back to spending too much money on Amazon, bitch, but
You know?
stop buying bags and shit. I don't know, lady.
That's it. Stop
But
it.
you know what is so fun? I am the ultimate do as I say, not as I do. Like I would look you right in the eyes and tell you that exact thing. Like remember what you're doing, the fact that you guys are here and doing this, that you get up on stage in New York City and do comedy. People pay to see you, that you know you are in the top 0.001% of people who have ever tried to do this shit. I will tell you that and fully believe it and really mean it, and I will turn around and absolutely not believe it about myself.
Yeah.
Like, and I can't reconcile it. I know it makes no sense, but you know, I don't know if that's the Irish Catholic in me, if that's the I've been on the internet too long in me, the Barstool in me, whatever. That's just the way it goes. You know?
Buddy boy, Ryan and I are about to bust out for Minnesota.
Oh, sick, dude. I've heard about this. What a fun, exciting adventure.
Yeah, we got
I
an
love it.
adventure planned. We got some fun stuff planned.
For someone who doesn't like Lil Yachty, going to Minnesota is pretty funny, huh?
Is that where he's from?
Minnesota.
Is that where he's
Sorry,
from?
I didn't mean to get
Oh.
for you.
Well, the question I have, I know it's going to be very cold, so I've been struggling to think about what sort of coat I need to bring. But more importantly, I was struggling to figure out what sort of pants to bring. And I thought about packing some really heavy, warm pants, but then I thought to myself, am I really going to sacrifice comfort for warmth?
Not to mention, you won't need to pack at all if you wear a pair of bird dogs.
That's exactly right. If I bring my bird dog's pants, I don't care what the temperature is. I know no matter what, I'm going to be happy.
You'll be able to sleep on that plane still.
Yep.
Reclining as far down as you can. And guess what? They're saying that turbulence has gotten much, much worse over the last 10 to 15 years.
Are they saying
That's
that?
great.
There's much more random, extreme turbulence
Oh,
where the
Lord.
beverage cart hits the top of the plane. 85% of the time, it's the flight attendant that's getting injured. Don't worry.
Okay.
But if that is to happen, you got to be nimble, pal.
Yeah.
You know, you better be wearing your bird dogs.
Like Jack.
You
Jack
know?
be nimble.
Absolutely.
Um,
Because you need to strap that seatbelt in just in case, but you still want to be able to be comfortable.
yeah. Wow. Those are so much info. Amazing. Thank you. And I'll tell you
welcome.
what, bird
Have fun
dogs
in the
pants are the great pant to wear whether you're watching flight attendants break their necks all over the plane or beverage carts fly around. Whatever it is, those are the pants to travel in. Fundamentally,
Absolutely.
it's true. I don't care where you're going, whether it's Minnesota or Key West.
Key West, Florida.
Bird Dogs pants have you covered. The best shorts, the best pants, the best joggers in the game. Built-in underwear liner, meaning you don't have to pack a pair of U-Trow to go with your pants.
That's right.
So guys, go to birddogs.com. Use promo code OOPS. You'll get that signature tumbler that comes with your purchase. Birddogs.com. Promo code OOPS. So,
Yeah.
okay. And Julio, I apologize because I have so many questions. But if you want to,
Oh, can I tack
Jump in.
something on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
then?
yeah, of course.
So before we move on, it's funny you say that because as I've been talking to you about how I think you're so successful, and when I'm hearing you talk about like, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the whatever that saying is,
cheese.
I think that about myself too. I'm like, maybe I should have been this, maybe I should have been that. It's easy for me to tell you, dude, it seems like you're crushing
You're
it.
good, yeah.
But the same shit, I think the same thing about myself. I'm always like, I'm not bold enough. My approach has been too soft. I'm not willing to fucking kick down the door and be like, it's me.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
No,
like I'm
totally.
scared to do that.
Yeah, no. Well, I think there's a few things in that. I think like it's just not ever been my personality to complain really about anything, you know. But I mean, I've been told by like multiple people here, people kind of on their way out the door from other like third floor jobs and shit, being like, yo, just to let you know, you speak up a little more. Like the reason why some people get these deals and these things to get done is because they're in my ear like every fucking day, and they are kicking in doors and they are complaining and that's where that whole easy money thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should have fucking spoke up. I think inherently the problem I have is that, and if you're anybody at Penn who deals with negotiating contracts, turn this off right now. I feel like deep down I know that this is kind of like a cushy job and like a dream come true. And sometimes I think the money that everybody can be making here is like stupid and ridiculous. And even just having a little taste for like 4 years of doing the real world, I'm like, I was happy to just not have to live in that life anymore.
Mhm.
And it's like, what you should know is your value. You should know how much money you can bring to the table with your followers and your reach and your talent and all that. So fuck you, pay me. But deep down, I'm kind of like, I think this job is probably actually worth like $50K. So like anything above that, you know, and that's wrong. And I'm not right, but
Cut that.
there is, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, I don't want anybody thinking that, but there is a little bit of that where it's like, I really got to believe that before I fucking do it, you know?
Mhm.
And if you don't, I think you can smell it on someone when they actually, you know, think it versus they're trying
Right.
to think it, you know, be like a poser.
Totally, dude.
But
Totally.
I do hate to admit it. There is a level of me that like once the Penn stock vested, that it's like I now have a quantifiable number that proves You know, up until then, it was like, do you like me or do you not like me? Do you think I'm funny? I'm not funny. You could look at the charts or whatever, but it's like, sadly enough, it took a sum of money for me to be like, I was right, you were wrong. I'm better than you think I was to anybody who like doubted me, you know? So like, I guess once you have the confidence for whatever reason, then you can be squeaky about it, you know?
Yeah.
It all comes back to confidence. in a way,
Yeah,
think,
I mean,
you know?
it probably took somewhere north of $5 million
to feel that way?
for you.
Yeah.
Probably north of 6.
See what you're doing here.
What?
You guys can do the math, you know? I had a few percent,
You had
let's
a
say, in
few?
the company,
A few points?
and the number that it sold for is out there, so
Hold
you
on
go
a
do the
second.
math.
Hold on a second.
Bust
All
out the
right.
calculator.
So the company was valued at what, $551 million sale to Penn?
650.
650?
650 total, yeah.
Holy
it
shit.
was like 300 the first round and 350 the next
So
round.
it went up in between those two valuations.
I was told
Because didn't they buy a third at 150 with an evaluation of 450 million or something?
the original number I heard was 450. But then and I was blown away by that. I was talking to somebody, or maybe when I did my solo episode myself the other day on KFC Radio, I was on the outside of that whole process. I didn't know anything about it. I found out about that deal the day before you guys. Like, I had 24 hours notice. That was it, before the public knew. We had always hoped, like, maybe in our wildest dreams we could sell this thing for $100 million. And even up until that point, I never knew, like, when Dave said $450 million, I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I was like, does Penn, are they crazy? And it turns out they, like, you know, it's a steal with the revenue we're bringing in. But at that time, I was blown away by 450, and then I found out that there was some sort of terms of the contract that said it's minimum 450 and can go up to 650 if we meet, or 600, whatever it was. So I shouldn't talk. It was like if we hit certain levels, and it was like pretty quickly apparent.
It's probably called an earn-out.
Yeah, like we were hitting all those numbers to make it hit the high end of the number. So
amazing.
Wow. You had a couple of points. I'm guessing 3 to 4% is what you had. Okay, cool.
You know what? I genuinely wish we could openly talk
Why
about this.
can't you?
And I don't
Did
know.
they tell you not to?
No. And I myself like absolutely would, but I just think there's so many assholes out there that would either like.
Yeah.
Kevin.
You don't need the smoke.
No, Kevin. This is how we tell those assholes to go fuck themselves.
Yeah, maybe so.
So hold on, I'll do it for you. You're not even here right now.
Right.
$650 million was the valuation. At a 3% equity stake, you're talking about $20 million.
It's like 18.9, but who's? If you had to guess, like, well, but it's
19.5.
It was half stock, half cash though. So I got this first round was just a chunk of cash.
Holy shit, dude. That is so much more than I thought. I am so happy for you. That's fucking sick.
Yes!
Oh, man. That's so much money.
The boys
It's
getting
baffling,
cash.
dude.
Now,
And
hold
that,
on.
That hasn't even set in. So like I said, the first chunk is cash. But I will say what they have told me is that, so this money came in this year. So like next tax season, not this one right coming up, but I got to pay taxes on the whole thing.
You got to be careful.
And that is like, there's a chunk of cash that came in, but it's pretty damn close to the whole tax number I'm going to have to pay.
Oh.
So I was like, how does that work?
Oh, that's interesting.
And they were like, don't worry, like, you know, there's certain things we can do to lower it or defer it or whatever. But I was kind of like, I was about to be like, all right, let's buy some things. And then I was like, maybe let's not buy some things. Let's
probably
get through
smart.
that round first.
Did they team you guys up with like financial advisors? When this
No.
all started happening?
So that's
Okay.
funny too. I was
Curiosity.
I don't really mean this, like I'm not actually superstitious or whatever, but I was so like, I'm not going to touch the money. I'm not even going to think about it. Some people were like, oh, you could probably take a loan out on that incoming stock one day and have some money. And I was like, I am waiting until this shit happens. Like, cause I'm just, you know, nothing ever has like totally broke my way when it comes to some of these things. So I was just like, I am not going to fuck around until I have this cash. So then I didn't take a lot of steps that I probably should have been taking like the whole time. So all of a sudden it got like down to the wire, and I was like, oh fuck, I don't have a tax person, I don't have a finance person, I didn't even have the right account open the week of the money hitting.
Oh wow.
I maybe I'm stupid. I just had like a JP Morgan account, and I thought like the money would go there. And they were like, no, you need like a private banking, wealth, whatever. And
Chase private client.
Yeah. And so he set that up for me. And I told this on KFC Radio when the money, because everyone asked me like, what happens is you just see the account number change or midnight hits and the money changes. I didn't have my own password to my account at that point because I waited so long. So the guy who set it up for me had texted me and just said, the number, like the money hit, the number is this. And I was like, cool, what's my login? Like name and password. I didn't even know my name. So like those guys were like, are you crazy? Like you don't have the setup yet? Like they were like, we're going to have to expedite this through like all of the regular bullshit. You got to have it ready. Cause I was just so like, not until the clock is double zeros. You know what I mean? Like, so that number hits. Yeah, that's awesome.
You'll have everything shake out. You don't live in New York City.
No, I'm in Westchester. Yeah.
So you don't pay city tax.
Correct.
That's awesome. That's
a nice
4+% right there.
That's a nice chunk.
Would they have advised you to move before that happened?
So I saw, Papa Page views going down to Florida, and I started to look at some other places, other states that do that kind of shit. I couldn't go to Florida. But I think Vermont is one that's either really low or non-existent.
New Hampshire's really low.
New Hampshire, maybe it was.
New Hampshire's no sales tax, although I think their property taxes are really high.
There was something that was, in the Northeast that I kind of kicked around the idea.
Yeah.
I kicked that idea around for like 6 hours because I was like, the logistics of it. I mean, I moved apartments like a year ago, and I moved like 10 extra minutes from where I was, and it was like a problem with my ex-wife and everything. So I was like, imagine if I picked up and went to fucking New Hampshire.
Right.
But it is funny. Don't you think it should be the opposite? That when you're scratching and clawing for every penny, you try to go find a place in one of these states that has lower taxes. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Like I know when you start to make $100 million and you see your tax bill is fucking 30 because of New York, you're like, I got to get out of here. But it almost should be like the other way around, where it's like I am scratching to get by as is. I got to get to a state where there's no fucking taxes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
right. Like if you make
but it's
80K,
also picking up and moving
half of it's
is
gone.
Yeah. It's like now you could theoretically afford to pay all those taxes, but I guess it's when you see that number just poof gone. It's like
yeah.
So let me ask you this.
Imagine that. I mean, paying taxes on like
it's crazy.
Like when they started talking to me about my taxes next year, I was like, I don't want to talk about this. Like we'll talk next year.
And especially with the way yours is structured, like since you're getting half in cash and the rest in stock, right?
Yeah.
It all has to come out of the cash. That's what I'm gathering.
That's kind of what they're telling me. Which, by the way, I don't know. Like, what happens if the stock fucking goes to zero?
Right.
Knock on wood, it doesn't. But like, what if I don't realize that money ever?
No,
but I have to fucking pay it. Like,
I can't imagine you have to pay capital gains tax on equity
something that I'm not
on
like
stock
taking out.
that you're not touching.
But I guess
But it's like income.
They're saying it's like it's like one transaction where you are receiving assets or whatever it is. And I mean I'm probably exaggerating a little bit. It's not like the whole amount, but it's a fucking chunk of it that there was some amounts that I was gonna like pay to family, and I had to like trim those down a little bit. And I was like, maybe I'll get you in a couple installments rather than just one big lump sum, whatever. So
you were gonna buy your mama an Escalade, and now you're getting her a Mazda Miata.
But it's true. It's enough taxes that it's like you're a different kind of rich before and after.
Yeah. There definitely is. I can understand, and I've always understood the notion of like more money, more problems sort of thing. I certainly understand the other side of it, where it's like, fuck you, shut up. But they're just, it's not that it's harder. It's just that there are a set of problems and a set of like numbers that you're not used to. And it's like, holy shit, this is not all, sunshine and rainbows. There's some, things that you got to worry about and take care of and be smart about. And you know what? It's almost like I used to think about when people would hit the Powerball. You're like, oh my God, I got $500 million. And then you learn that there was like 5 other winners. And it's like, you're still walking away with a ton of money, but all of a sudden your money gets cut in into a fifth, and you're like,
Uh-huh.
what the fuck? Oh my god, I'm broke. It's like,
Right.
no, you're still very rich and happy, but your mindset shifts a little bit where it's like, all right, there's just more to worry about. Like,
Does your
Yeah.
agent take a percentage of your
I don't have
work
an
income?
agent.
Oh, okay.
I for this next contract, I have somebody that's an agent who's, it's almost like more like they're consulting me right now, but I have not had I have a touring agent who like books the
Yeah.
road, but I've never had an agent negotiate my
That's
contracts.
great. So that's 10% you didn't lose.
10% I didn't lose on contracts that are probably like 40% too low.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you
but
know,
on the
It's the
buyout.
argument for the
so
agent.
my thought with agents always was, and I think there's two things I regret, and this goes back to, I had lost track of my thought, but when you're talking about the squeaky wheel gets the oil,
Cheese.
against the cheese.
Cheese. Yeah.
The I thought at Barstool, there's two things I would do differently. One, I think I straight up was a little too self-deprecating, and that was like always my sense of humor and always will be. But there was a point where it was like me, Dan, and Dave, and those guys were kind of like born to be stars and knew it. And like, especially, I mean, Dave was like, I'm gonna be rich one day. You can find the fucking blogs back in 05 where he was like, I don't know how, but I'm gonna be rich from gambling. And like, boom, it
Mhm.
That's
came to
amazing.
fruition, you know?
It's
And I
incredible.
was always the guy that's like, I'm probably gonna end up dead in the gutter. I'm just, I don't know why, you know? So I would make fun of myself and I would clown myself. And I think while that got some laughs and built the character that I am today, sometimes I wish I was a little more like, no, I did that podcast first, or this is crushing, or I think I'm the best writer, or whatever. Because again, if you're not going to say it, they're not going to say it. There's a lot of times where like Twitter trolls or whoever would like take shots at me, and I'd almost be like, it's almost like I can make fun of my mom, you can't. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
hold on, I'll say that I'm like skinny, fat, and lame, not you. Fuck
Right.
off,
Yeah.
So that's one thing I wish. And number two is I say this to anybody: the minute you're talking about like any semblance of real money, you should probably have an agent who knows what the fuck they're talking about.
Mm.
I think I signed like a longer term deal that was probably like not a good deal for me.
When did you do that?
It's just expiring now, so I think
Oh,
from
that's
like
the last one.
yeah, so like 20. I think I signed like a 5-year deal.
Huh.
It was like 2018 through now.
And the terms of that never changed during the course of that
No.
deal?
No. So
Wow.
it was like a pretty big jump from like what I was making in 17 to 18. But then from there, it just had like regularly installed raises, but nothing major.
Could you not have
And then-
gone and been like, hey, look at this. I've created this, and I'm doing this and that.
Squeaky wheel gets the cheese, man.
You weren't
know, like,
squeaking.
It's not squeaking.
You never squeaked once?
I didn't squeak once. The only reason I will also say this is because, and I don't even know I'm supposed to be talking about these things, but there was I had certain revenue goals set for bonuses, and those did not take into account 1 Minute Man because that had not been a thing yet.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I've got to hit this revenue goal based on like all this other little shit that I was doing, and all of a sudden I had this fucking skyrocket that I'm gonna hit that goal, and so my bonus is gonna be sizable because of that. So I'm just gonna shut my mouth.
Oh, and you did.
So I did, but even like on top, like just my base salary probably should have been higher, and more importantly, I probably should have negotiated maybe some non-financial terms of
Mhm.
like just things about how we operate. But I was just kind of like, that number is bigger than I thought it was gonna be, and like more
Right.
money than I ever thought I would make for blogging. Sign
Right.
there, and then I'm like, looking back maybe because a lot changed from 17 to 23. It's like I went from just like this is just my job to being like I'm a part owner of this company, and I want to start my own branch, and I want to do my own things, and all that kind of stuff. So
Mm.
those are two things that I would be a little more confident and have somebody. I was just afraid of like I didn't want to rock the boat with Dave and Erica. I wanted in my mind two things in my mind.
We understand that for sure.
Dave and Erica are like negotiating types that like they're not going to get like duped by an agent. So you're not going to all of a sudden get like 25 extra %. You're probably going to get like 10 extra %, which you then just pay back to them. So I was like, well, I'm
Right.
gonna go ruin this like our dynamic
Mhm.
with this agent that I know they hate for a couple extra bucks. But then I was like, fuck that. Like I should just be like, I'm an employee. You're the employer. This is show business, basically.
Mhm.
Like I had to remind myself, like this is fucking
Right.
show business.
It's
This is
not
how it
personal.
works.
It's formality.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And now, especially now, like if you're dealing, it's not Dave personally anymore. Like it's like you have a boss, you have a company. Like represent yourself properly. You know,
Mhm.
if you're, there's a level to it. I mean, if you're, I remember a little Sass making some contract demands early on that was like, okay, I'm all for, get your money, but like there, you got to be reasonable about certain things.
You were a fearless voice, constantly pushing the envelope for so many
damn,
years.
I love this episode. Let's go for
And
like 4 hours.
and you were the edgiest writer for sure. I think for me,
Yeah,
no one, well, Dave, but you set the tone in terms of this is what Barstool is in the early blogs. I can
you, man.
still remember, the one you wrote about the blind people.
That was early. That was like week 1, month 1.
Maybe I saw like a reprinting of
And it was
it.
also like every time there was a story about blind people, it like I wrote another one and restarted. But I think that was like summer to fall of 2009 maybe, which was like
Wow.
2010.
20. All right, so
Damn.
but still, I
Interesting.
mean that's summer. Okay.
And then a very distinct moment that I was at the company for, and I hope you don't mind if we bring this up.
No.
This was what, 2018,
17, 18, something.
17,
I think
18.
it was right around January, so I don't know which year it went into and which.
Yeah,
whatever.
I remember I was in I don't know, some kind of a radio show or podcast, and I came out of it, and I walked back to my desk, and I was all jolly and talking loudly as I did, and Nate went, dude. And I was like,
It was
what?
like we were at
And
a
he
wake
was like,
or
yo,
something.
man, bring it down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? And everyone just had their heads
Ugh.
buried in their laptops. Nobody was talking. And he was like, Kevin's wife just outed him for having an affair. And I was like,
Some
you're
salacious
fucking
shit.
kidding me.
Yeah, that was wild.
And you had gone or hadn't come in because you were dealing with it. And then it just became this seismic story.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that TMZ was waiting for you in the lobby of that little building we worked in.
Yep.
And
They never got me, but I heard they were there. Yeah.
when I heard that, I was like, oh,
That's crazy. though.
that's
Like,
that was crazy to me.
I don't think anybody, all parties involved, thought it was gonna be like that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was in TMZ. They wrote about it in the Daily Mail over in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little blurb in People magazine, not like the magazine, but the online version.
Yeah.
I remember Dave going, "Well, you made it to People magazine." I was like,
Yeah, I
"Fuck
mean,
you,
I don't
man."
want to, not to make this a dick measuring contest, but I got Washington Post when I got fired. Which,
Hey,
yeah. And I got Daily Mail too. Yeah,
Yeah,
You know,
I
it
mean,
wasn't a blurb. It was a full thing.
fucking the write ups and the stories and like I think to this day my Google's results are not great.
Yeah. So okay,
Shout out to Raya who banned me, wouldn't let me in
the dating
Because
app.
of
the
that?
dating app. I'm assuming
Oh my god.
they put me on the wait list and I was like,
Oh, wow.
I could probably venture a guess as to why.
Okay, but I have new questions.
Wow, that's refreshing because the same old fucking ones.
I have new questions. I remember the next day you came in. And
I came in right for the record, for better or worse, smart or dumb. I don't know what it is. That shit happened on like a Thursday. I think I skipped Friday. I was back on the radio on Monday.
Came in on
I don't know
Monday.
if that was a good idea or bad idea, but
Face the music.
yeah.
You came in, you walked off the elevator. It was probably like 9:30, 10 a.m. So only a handful
I
of people were there.
vividly remember that though.
And I was sitting down, and you were like, all right, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm sorry. And you apologized, and you sort of, your voice cracked, and you broke down, and my heart broke. I remember my heart breaking for you
Mm-hmm.
because I just couldn't imagine how this company that was a comedy and entertainment company had created a voyeurism of its employees that would place them in a position to be judged and ridiculed and have stones thrown at for what is a human mistake or fallibility that has been happening for fucking years to so many fucking people. The divorce rate in America is over 50%, and it's not because people like blah, blah, blah. It's not everyone's beating each other. Everyone's cheating on each other. That's why. Everybody is doing this, and all those stoolies, what a monster.
Yeah.
You fucking piece of shit. You have no idea. You know why? Because no one's going to marry you. That's how much of a loser you are. Just because you're single for no choice of your own doesn't mean you get to judge why or how someone's marriage fell apart.
Right.
So
That
you
was
issued that apology. We all got up in turns and gave you a hug. I'm proud of the fact that I was the second up after John Feidelberg. You can watch the tapes. My question, if you have thoughts about this moment, I'd be happy to hear them. But my question, which all of this is a long-winded way of getting to this, how much different is your career if that doesn't happen?
I think probably significantly. And I can't pinpoint that. The only thing I can say tangibly, this is not the biggest thing in the world, but to me it was going to be pretty cool. We had a deal with Reebok, and we had just designed our own sneaker. And as a sneaker guy, that was pretty cool. It was a Reebok Classic, like a true sneaker. This sounds very dickhead of me to be like, the one bad thing that happened about this was sneakers. But it was the one tangible thing. Reebok dropped me like immediately, which was just a weird thing. It was like, I'm being like dropped, like the way you hear, Kanye got dropped, So they canceled our deal. The shoe was made. It never came out. And so that was like the only tangible thing in the moment. But then over the years, I heard things like I remember when I finally became friendly with Raina and Ashley on Girls Gotta Eat. After a couple interviews, they flat out were like, yeah, we like avoided you or turned down interviews and stuff because we like didn't want to be around that. And then we kind of got to know you and know the situation. And we were like, oh, fuck that. And I was like, man, how many people did that, And I do think there was some level. I don't think I was ever going to be on the level of Dave and Dan, but dating back to that, there was like a big three vibe. And then those guys between gambling and just their star power were going on a different trajectory as me. I don't think it helped that also was like became what I'm known for. You know what I mean?
Did you feel neutered in a way by it?
I felt and I still to this day feel like the need to qualify like everything I say. Like if I'm writing a blog and I want to make a joke, I would have to throw in a like, now I'm not one to talk, but, or sometimes like, hey, take it from me or whatever. And so that feels a little annoying because it's like, this would be the perfect joke in this blog.
Yeah.
As is. But I know that the only reaction I'm going to get is going to be like, well, you can't say that because XYZ. And I'm like, oh, I don't want this whole blog to just be lost in the divorce and cheating talk. So let me acknowledge it and try to pop a doc, try to B-rabbit that shit and get ahead of it. So not like neutered in that sense, but I do feel like you lose the fucking high ground like forever on any topic. Although I think that's kind of crazy. Like I'll talk about, fucking R. Kelly and someone will be like, well, who are you to talk? I'm like, come on, guys. And there are times where people like will literally talk about like rapists. And I'm like, guys. And there's some story, there's like a version of the story is that I missed the birth of one of my children to, have an affair. I'm like, and a lot of people believe that. A lot of people think it was literally like, sorry, like I'm in a hotel. It's like, because one asshole said it and people love to run with it. And I'm also not the type, I've talked about it here and there. I'll answer all these questions. I never will sit down and explain like everything because it's just, I don't believe in airing things out like that publicly.
You can't control it. You can't control it.
You also, you can't
you can just
the people who want to hate
on top of it.
It's like anything else people say though. It's like when we fight against the tides at Barstool and people are hating on us. The people who like us and continue to ride for us. The people who hate us are always going to hate us.
Mm-hmm.
And in some instances, there's a middle ground that you hope to grab and convince. But like the amount of people who were just kind of like, that's his business, or hey, I've been in a similar spot, don't throw stones, or I don't like what you did, but that doesn't define you. Whatever your variation is, you probably already believe that, whether or not I explain everything to you or not. And then there are people who hate me because of it, or hated me already and just love that they have this ammo against me now,
Right.
or whatever. So you're probably not going to change any minds. So why continue to air out all your business that's already, it all should have stayed private. 90% of it, 50% of it's out there. I'm going to make it 90% now. Like, no,
Right.
So, I would love to. There are definitely times where I'm like, if you knew certain things or whatever, never going to say I handled it the right way. But man, some of the portrayals that people or the versions that people made up in their head of me is like kind of crazy. I just don't get like you said, it's been going on in every form, whether it's public, private, famous, not
Forever.
famous, reality TV, scripted TV, even like everything forever. And there are even people who like down to my exact situation, pregnant wife, married this long, like whatever, all the details you want to throw at me that make it seem that much more heinous and that much more terrible. There are super famous people, your favorite entertainers, comedians, actors who do like the exact same thing. Nobody cares. Nobody seems to hold them.
Right.
Nobody rakes them over the coals. I think the only difference is a lot of those situations did not involve a call out. It was like
Right.
page 6 found out about,
Right.
but it wasn't the person
The
involved.
presentation matters.
And
yeah.
that really makes it be like, pile on, go.
If it makes you feel better, this is the first time I've ever heard about it.
It does. So like
Never-
Great.
that's also why, sometimes I'm like, shut up and stop talking about it because you're the one perpetuating it. I will say that like if I post a 1 minute, man, inevitably top comments almost always are like, yeah, but you cheated on your wife, no matter what the topic is. And so part of me is like, I have to continue to address it because there's enough people that do see it and probably do go Google me. And it's like, it would just be, I don't want to be one of those people in the public eye who like just ignores reality, puts their head in the sand. Part of me sometimes is just like, don't fan the flames. Don't give it any, let's snuff this thing out. Because there are people like you who didn't know, and now they are going to know. But I think enough people know that it's like part of me sometimes thinks maybe if I got away from Barstool, would I shed that also as well? I don't know. I'm not sure. Like if it would be like, oh, that's just
Probably.
Kevin Clancy, a new, stand-up podcast, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Not, oh, that's the guy from Barstool who cheated on his wife.
If you started a terrestrial sports radio show in the New York tri-state area and you built a fan base, there would be moments, in my opinion, where people would be like, wait, Kevin Clancy? Isn't that guy who had
Mhm.
that thing with his wife?
Mhm.
And someone would be like, what? And they wouldn't look it up.
Right.
It
But
would
I will
just,
say
the
this,
interest
dude.
would end there.
I don't know why. There is some sort of burning interest when it comes to me that I've noticed. That
My
like,
guess is it's because you had the strongest opinions.
yeah.
You were the most, also, you had tied your personal life to your brand.
Yeah,
You
and that
were
was stupid.
podfathers.
Yeah.
You talked about your kids. You played into the sort of like angry,
But that was the thing it was the like I was not the guy who was like I'm fucking super happy and my marriage is better than yours sort of thing. Like if you were listening, you knew I was struggling.
Yeah, but I think everyone thought you were kidding because everyone's
I guess
seen
they
that
think
trope,
that,
the
yeah.
disenchanted father, many
Well,
times.
and that was kind of my argument too. A lot of times when people would tell me like to not talk about your family as much or hey, that's all private. In hindsight, I should have talked way less, or maybe zero, about my family. But anything I did talk about was the tropes. I was never I was never telling the public about our individual thing that is unique to us. It was
Mhm.
always like, you don't get laid when you're married and you get nagged and, she's closing the cabinets too loud and it's silent, all that shit. It was like, this is what couples go through and I'm going to talk about that. But in hindsight, I definitely shouldn't have posted. I shouldn't have, because
Well-
that was part of it. Like, as much as I say, if you listen to all my shows, I was being pretty open, maybe a little secretly, but pretty open. But people don't listen to your shows. They see your Instagram. They see the one post of you with your family
Right.
looking happy. They think that you're playing the happy family man, and then you think you're a fraud. And it's
Mhm.
like, I was being pretty real about it, you know? It was obviously things people didn't know, but it was like, I don't know. It was more there than I think people realize. What I didn't expect is the day you described. I don't know why I was not braced for this. I didn't expect. I walked off the elevator and YP had a camera, like right in my face, and I thought maybe
It's a
there would
fucking
have been like
nightmare.
a grace period, or they would have even said. But in hindsight, I'm sure that everyone was like, "Yo, go get your camera." You know, I'm sure they were like, "This is gonna be the biggest day of content ever." So that I gave that impromptu speech and was crying and shit because I was like, I didn't even consider this. You know, I was like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
this is gonna be all the content everybody's talking about for a week," and it turned out to be 5 years.
Fuck.
But you know, enough people seem to still fuck with me. So, you know,
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a couple of ways to look at it. One is Barstool may be the only company where a story like that of an employee becomes material and fodder for the
Yeah.
entire company.
right?
But on the flip side, maybe Barstool is one of the few companies where an employee can have something like that happen, a public scandal, and you just keep working, stick your way out, and a handful of years later, you make $19 million.
So it's a story of perseverance. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that much. Because goddamn, it has been a fucking.
Wild
It's
ride.
been a wild ride. It's also. I mean, I've been scratching and clawing to get past it all. So
Yeah.
I mean, still to this day is a problem. And I do wonder, like, if there would have been more offers or like I one of the things I would hope to do is as my kids get older and I maybe got to tone it down more or I want to slow down the tone down the edginess or whatever. I'd love to get into some basic hosting of shit, a Netflix reality show,
Mhm.
a game show, some shit like that. Put my hosting skills to use on something that's like I don't want to say mindless, but you know what I mean. And I wonder if there was ever some of that. I had one meeting one time with people from like Sony, I think it was, talking about a potential Netflix collab, and they were like really about it, and then all of a sudden like poof, gone. And in my head, it could be a million reasons, but in my head, I'm like, oh, they Googled me, they figured this
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
I don't know. Part of me would love to know that answer. Part of me would love to know that answer if it's not so bad. If you told me that I would have gone on to become, you know, fucking the next big thing. I don't want to know that.
But Kevin, you'd have to say that if you had the opportunity to do it all differently, I think given the buyout and the magnitude of that money,
Would I do it again?
you can't change a thread of what you have of the way things went because there may not be a road to that
Yeah.
enormous payday.
I
if anything
usually
is
agree
different.
with you, but like that, you know, actually, I don't know. I will say this, and this is sad. This is a sad commentary as well. My career, like the amount of content I put out was like 5x after I got divorced. Because I find you can't do both to the fullest. Like, if your relationship is thriving and you're traveling and spending time, I think your work is going to suffer. And vice versa. You're in the office every time, all day long. I think your home is going to be a little more of a struggle. And I find that life, the key to life is that balance, you know. And if you can strike one, God bless you. I passed up on a lot of things, turned down a lot of stuff. I shied away from certain content and jokes and all this sort of shit. Traveling more with Dave, all these things that I knew was going to put a strain on my relationship. And then once I was single, it was like I started a Mets podcast. I started 1 Minute Man. We added episodes to this show. I added an entire other podcast. Like, I did so much more. Like, I can tell you, 1 Minute Man probably would not exist had I stayed in a marriage because when I would get home for the day, I'd be like, all right, work's over. Meanwhile, I'm making 1 Minute Mans like every fucking, every time something happened, I'm alone in my apartment, bam, here we go, So part of me, maybe you're right. Maybe if I hadn't done all that work, things would have gone differently. But part of me thinks I was there to establish Barstool. I probably would have had that equity no matter what. And if I could have avoided that situation, it probably would be better for my kids, my family, all that stuff. But Professionally, yeah, I could say in the long run it ended up okay professionally. Family wise, personally, we'll see. The time, the book is still, the rest is still unwritten.
Yeah.
But
It's
man, it
only,
was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
we're
was
early
wild.
on in the tale still.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay, last question. What do you want from a material standpoint with this new wealth? What's one thing that once the tax bills are paid,
Yeah.
you realize how much you have left? Let's say that it's any amount of money. What's the treat?
I'm gonna take out a house because I got to buy a house, but that's not, you got to have a house, right? It's like, and I gotta.
How nice is that house?
It's pretty dope. The house.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'll say this.
Yes, it is dope. Heated floors, a shower that can turn into a steam room.
Bro,
Yeah.
those are the treats because that's not there yet. It's an older home that I'm looking at, but like, I think I will make. I've always said I wanted a nice bathroom, like a baller bathroom.
Yep.
And that will be one thing I do. And then there's one thing that is kind of stupid, definitely stupid, and I don't know if I'm going to do it because it's shockingly stupid, but it's also something that's been in my content since for sure not since the blog I had before Barstool that I used to joke about, but I also think is kind of a fucking cool idea. Is I always said I want to make enough money where I can retire and I could open up a bowling alley in the Caribbean. Okay, and it's so listen, hear me out. It's an
bowling coconuts.
Yes, it's an outdoor bowling alley. The pins are painted like Corona bottles, and the balls are painted like coconuts or limes. You're outdoors, but it's got a roof over you, so if it rains or whatever, and just little walls, so the sand can't blow on. But it's open air, and you're looking at the beach. And you can bowl, but it's also it's not one of those dingy bowling clubs. There's a DJ and hot waitresses, and you can party there. But you're also bowling on the beach in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that might be not that much, just given where maybe I put it and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
Sick.
it's obviously way out there. But if I ever get fuck you money, I might just be I'm gonna open this, and it's gonna fail in a year, but I'm gonna be able to take a picture with all that I described, and I'll be able to go back to a blog in 2007 when I was fresh out of school and be I fucking did this. Failed miserably, but I fucking did this.
Yeah.
So the bowling alley in the Caribbean would be the one, but a tangible one, baller bathroom is what I want. Whether or not this house that I'm looking at can fit it, I actually don't know yet. But they kind of say, we can do cool shit and make it happen. But
Cool.
yeah, the upgrade to the house is gonna be nice, man. I've lived in garbage apartments for the last 5 years. Because when I got a divorce, I was like, I'm just not gonna do anything permanent yet. It's crazy. But it's one thing to say I got a year left on my lease, or let's just hold on for 2 more years. 5 years, a long time.
Yeah.
I was living my cars were getting broken into outside my apartment. Currently, right now, I live next to the fucking NYPD gun range all day long in the Bronx area.
Wow.
Because it's just all these guys practicing.
Yeah, but that's the Bronx. You'd hear that whether you live next to a gun range or not. I mean, guys, that's Kevin Clancy. Thank you for your incredible transparency and everything that you've done.
Man. I'm happy to. Sometimes I need to get on other shows to talk about it.
Yeah, man.
Talk about all
Good
these
to have
things,
you
but
on, man.
Well,
I
we're
appreciate
thrilled
it.
because you're the reason that this new chapter of Barstool is heading towards the world of comedy. And sure enough, Julio and I have come in to this, finding that out. It's like being told, hey, everyone, we're going to switch everything over to Spanish. And meanwhile, he and I have spent the last 10 years taking Spanish classes. So it's oh, fuck yeah.
No, totally. I mean,
very cool.
I want you guys to be a huge part of it. I'm hoping it all
Thank you, man.
unfolds the way I want it to.
You guys need to talk more. You and Julio.
Yeah.
Because he's way deeper in the world of comedy than
Really?
I am.
Okay,
He's
cool.
been at it
Definitely.
longer. He knows
Yeah,
people more.
I think that there's almost, I hate to say it this way because I don't want to jinx it, but it's I don't see a way this thing fails if we approach comedy the way we have been, and maybe a little bit extra with some more knowledge from people like yourselves who have done it.
Yeah, for
And you
sure.
guys are the only people who have married the stand-up comedy and Barstool. I talk about it, you guys do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you guys probably have some great insight and would be perfect people to launch with this whole new thing. But It's just a matter of like whether or not Barstool really wants to do it.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
do you want to be able to say like, hey, yeah, the New York office is still running, but let's go down to Miami and check out what Dave's doing, and then let's look at the Chicago office. If you want to do it, Barstool, New York, we can do it. Like, I feel like in a
Cool.
year we can have this shit popping. So hopefully that's where we end up.
You got any live KFC radio dates coming up?
We're announcing soon. I think April will be when we start to go back out. April 26th, Houston Improv. April 27th, Dallas at the Addison Improv. April 29th, Austin at the Moon Tower Comedy. So that end of April is our Texas swing. And then May 12th is at the Wilbur. That's almost sold out already, so go get your tickets now. And then May 14th after that is Stamford. So basically Texas and then a Boston, Connecticut thing. And then we have a few others that we're going to announce soon. I think like a Pittsburgh, Milwaukee area type thing. So we're, we went out west for the first time this past year and did like 3 shows in 4 nights for the first time ever. And like really enjoyed that. I was like, this is good for us.
Sick.
Makes you
That's
sharp.
also, and no, but you know what? It's also to put a bow on all of it. You live on the internet for so long, and it's obviously so negative, and you start to fucking believe it, and then you go out in the real world, and people love you and say your show is great. They want to buy you a shot and take a picture, and some people are like crying to meet us and FaceTiming family, and I was like, holy shit. Maybe I should do this if for no other reason than to be reminded that people actually like us. you know?
Yeah.
But it does keep on top of all that stuff. So yeah, coming to a city near you, we put the podcast on stage and have a good time. So that's at if you just go to KFC Radio on all our social, or KFC Barstool is my personal, and you'll see all of our content and all of our links.
Cool.
Thank you
G,
guys.
anything coming up?
Yeah, just check out nahulio.com for all my tour dates. I'm bouncing around for the rest of the year. Got like a bunch of stuff, so go check that out. What about you?
Yeah, same deal. You guys know me. Hero We Need Tour, francisells.com for tickets. That's Kevin Clancy. You can check him out on KFC Radio. Thank you so much. We're Oops
You got it,
Podcast.
bud.
We'll see you guys soon.
I got a few.
Oh, Facts with Ryan. Facts with Ryan. Were they lying? Facts with Ryan.
All right, so podcasting was invented in 2004.
Damn, you were late, bro.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I think Bill Simmons was doing it. Like, did you have a fact on that? I'm pretty sure he was on that shit like real early.
Mhm.
I mean, I know Rogan was doing.
Yeah, 2007.
Yeah,
That's
like,
pretty
that's
early.
pretty.
Do you know who Rogan's first episode was with?
Red Band? Brian Red Band?
Ari Shafir.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Man, Ari's a legend. He's been
Wow.
around for a minute, dude.
I'm pretty sure of that fact.
That is
I think
legendary.
that's true. Yeah.
I would love to sit down with Red Band and be like, what happened? Give me the truth, too. Like, how do you feel? There's got to be a part of him that's like, fuck.
Yeah.
You're right,
Not worth-
Francis.
Oh, nice.
In 2005, the word podcast was declared word of the year by the new Oxford American Dictionary.
Shout out to
And then
podcasts.
Brianna West, she's an author. She's 30 years old.
Oh, wait. I thought that was going to. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Brianna
she
West
fol-
Chicken Fry.
And she follows 605 people on Instagram. And then I have one more quote to cap it off from her. The universe whispers until it screams, and happy people listen while the call is still quiet. Brianna West.
Thanks, Brianna.
I like the other one better.
All right. Thanks, guys.